everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to start my mid-month book bash vlog. So it is Friday, July the 12th, and I'm here for a Friday morning start of this because the mid-month book bash is the second weekend of the month. We go from Friday to Monday and we try to read as much as possible. It was originally created by Doris over at Aldi Books, and I am very excited to say that the exciting thing about this mid-month book bash is that Doris is coming. She's going to be here on Sunday where I am and stay with me for several days, and then we are going to travel together to New York City to visit Karen from Run Right Reads. So this is a very exciting mid-month book bash with the originator of the bash gonna be here in my vlog with me. So stay tuned for that, but it is Friday and I thought I would start the vlog and tell you what I'm reading this weekend. Two books that I'm going to be focusing on. The first is my read for Jane Austen July. This is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is a reread for me, and I am buddy reading this with Doris and Katie, my romance buddy readers, and I've only read the first 6 chapters, so like barely gotten into it, you know, and classic story of a mom and her daughters. The dad dies and the half-brother does not honor his promise to his dad to take care of the ladies. And so they have to go find other living arrangements, and they've just left their home and taken off to another part of England to stay in a friend of a friend kind of thing in the cottage. And they're going to live quietly in the country. So plot ensues from there. We're just at that beginning stage of them getting settled in their new home. So very much looking forward to continuing on with that. And then the other book I'm going to be reading this weekend is a nonfiction. This is The Quiet Damage, QAnon, and the Destruction of the American Family by Jesselyn Cook. This is a book that was sent to me by the publisher, Crown Publishing, and this book publishes on July the 23rd. So I wanted to read this so that I could have some thoughts for you guys about it before it actually comes out in bookstores. And I am very interested in, I don't know much about QAnon. I know that it is a very destructive entity, amorphous group of folks on the internet that really buy into some really deep and dark conspiracy theories. Things like, you know, that Sandy Hook was a false flag type of a deal, you know, that other like horrible tragic events never actually happened. They were all made up. That you know, that there's this elitist global cabal of liberals that are like trafficking children and just disgusting things like that. And this book takes us through. Jesselyn Cook is a reporter, and she interviewed and researched 5 different families that have had a family member sort of go from being, in some cases, very liberal and very lifelong Democrats, and sort of 180 switch into these conspiracy theories and really change their personalities and how they interacted with the world. And so she's going to talk to us, follow these 5 families and talk to us about how that happened, how they got radicalized, and what impacts it had on the rest of their families. And so I read the first 62 pages of this last night. And it's just each chapter is one of these families, and like just been learning about each of them in the first few chapters, and the family member that bought into these conspiracy theories and sort of fell into this QAnon stuff, and how that happened. And so there's a lot in here about how social media works and how the internet works, and particularly different generations or age levels of people, how they interact with social media differently, and levels of understanding about how those social media sites work and how the algorithms feed you stuff. Really fascinating information, and really feel for the families of these people, and really feel for the individuals that have gotten sucked into these very dark spaces in the world. Like in each of the cases, it was because some difficult thing happened to them personally that sort of led them to be looking at particular kinds of information on the internet. So yeah, really quite interesting and disheartening in some ways, but also pretty fascinating psychological exploration of how humans interact with information and how we can become convinced of things, even when we are, otherwise very well knowledgeable about true facts of life, but how we can still become influenced and biased and sort of brainwashed in some cases. So yeah, I'll be reading in this weekend. So those are the two books I'm going to focus on this weekend in this mid-month book bash. I don't have a lot planned other than Doris arriving on Sunday. So I have today, I'm going to be working, and then tomorrow, just doing some normal family stuff. And then, Doris on Sunday. So exciting times. Look forward to sharing them with you. Just going to do a little check-in here. It's Saturday, and I have just finished reading the first 20 chapters of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Reading this for Jane Austen July, and this is my second time reading this book, and like the names of the characters are familiar to me, but like have no memory of who ends up with who or what everybody's up to, other than that Jane Austen is very clearly demonstrating characters that show good sense and characters who are very much more interested in sensibility or feelings or emotions or romantic notions that they have about how life is going to go. So yeah, very much enjoying it, as I do always with Jane Austen books. I just really love her characters. I love how she is like taking on different aspects of the society in which she lived and like really poking fun at it or showing us the absurdity of different aspects of that society. And there are many characters in here where they're so foolish and they're so absurd, and you can tell that Jane Austen probably knew people like this and is like definitely making fun of that kind of attitude. So it is very enjoyable, and Sense and Sensibility is not my favorite, of the Austen novels, but I do think that it has very strong characters, and I am enjoying my time with it so far. So that's what I've been focused on thus far. I did also listen, my audiobook right now is Brave the Wild River, which is a book that I am listening to for the BookTube Prize. So I can't talk about it, but that is the audiobook that I'm working on. And I listened to some of that this morning when I was doing other things. So making a little bit of progress. Hello, happy Sunday. I'm here for a brief check-in. I have gotten to about a page 130 in The Quiet Damage by Jesselyn Cook, and I am really finding this book quite fascinating. This is case studies of 5 different families where an individual in the family has become indoctrinated into online conspiracy theories through QAnon and other sort of dark web type places. And in each instance, the person was not extreme far right person to begin with, but there were certain things that happened in each of these individuals' lives that left them more susceptible to the kind of propaganda and psychological ideas that were put forth that got them to buy into this stuff. And it's just, reading it, you just think, how would anybody ever fall into this? And the book clearly explains sort of how the human psyche works. And it reminds me a lot of the nonfiction book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. where it talks about the inherent biases that the human mind has, things like recency bias or sunk cost analysis, or different things, different ways that the human brain analyzes information and leads you to a path of what you believe. And that was really fascinating to see those connections and to see how these people could fall into these sorts of things. And, you know, in a lot of cases, the individuals were very liberal, progressive people who hated Donald Trump and hated the things that the far right stood for. But then, you know, and something would happen in their personal life that would leave them susceptible to different ideas, and that one idea would suck them into the greater QAnon world. And then it's about their families and how the families have tried to combat that and to bring their loved ones back out of this very cultish environment. I would say the book is very engrossing and keeps you turning pages. It's written in a style where you have each chapters from a different one of the families, and they often end on cliffhangers, so it makes you want to keep reading to find out what has happened to the individuals. And the only complaint, really, I have a couple of nitpicky complaints about the writing style, and one is that it's overly dramatic in places. You know, people do a lot of reeling and shock, or, you know, sometimes the descriptors that are used to describe the people's appearances, it does that thing where it subscribes emotions to eyes, which I dislike very much in romance novels, and I equally dislike them in my nonfiction book. Like, I could do without the extravagant sort of use of adjectives and descriptive actions. I think I like a more straightforward approach with my nonfiction, to put it, you know, straightforwardly. Anyway, I am enjoying it, and it is keeping me very interested and hooked, and I'm finding it to be a quick read. So that's where I'm at with this. And today I am picking up Doris from the airport, so stay tuned for Doris sightings.